The purpose of Wealth Talk is to educate, inform, and hopefully entertain you on the subject of building your wealth. WealthBuilders recommends you should always take independent financial, tax, or legal advice before making any decisions around your finances.
Today's episode is brought to you by WealthBuilders Membership, a proven step-by-step process that helps you achieve financial security within 2 to 3 years. To find out more, head to wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership. Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Wealth Talk. My name's Christian Rodwell, the Membership Director for WealthBuilders, joined by our founder, Mr. Kevin Whelan. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Chris. Good to be with you again. And what a fascinating subject we got today.
Yeah, we have a wonderful guest today, Kirsty Darkins, no stranger to Wealth Talk or the Wealth Builders community. And Kirsty will be talking to us all about commercial property today. Before we get into that, though, just want to let our listeners know that we have got our next webinar, live webinar, coming up later this month on Wednesday, the 29th of May. And we'll be doing 2 sessions, one at 12:30 p.m. and another at 8 p.m. And that will be all about how to create a clear plan to build recurring income. And we've got a proven process, Kevin, we've been teaching for many years to help people move from financial insecurity to financial security within 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, and it takes about 90 days to get the plan sorted because, most people don't know how to follow a plan. And I just love the idea that within 3 to 5 years, people can have all the expenses of their life completely paid for from the income from assets they set up. So their money works and their assets work, they don't have to. I think it's a very powerful message. And I just wish that paradigm shift of trading time for money instead of building assets for money, I wish that would change. But unfortunately, it's still a battle we face every single week and every single day. We're trying to get people to change their mind, aren't we, about seeing the inevitability of time for money will come to an end, whereas if you build assets, they don't end.
Yeah, we've said many times before, haven't we? Relying on one of anything is risky, and one source of income, whether that's from a job or from a business. Certainly over the last few years with COVID, with the changes in interest rates, with the economic changes, that reliance is even more risky. We see that.
Yeah, and even in the recent interview we did with Louise Hill of Go Henry, she mentioned, we should never, ever have a single point of failure. And it's saying the same thing, but slightly differently inside a business. If you've got one customer that's providing you most of your custom, if you've got one employee who knows how to do everything, you know what I mean? So one of anything that you're relying on can be devastating if something happens to that one thing. And more often than not, that one thing is you.
Yeah. So the key, of course, is to build multiple streams of income. And we know there's 7 assets that you can use, and that's what we teach at Wealth Builders. But today we're talking to Kirsty about commercial property, and that's a really fantastic strategy which can deliver long-term, predictable, recurring income. And obviously, Kirsty's going to share more about that.
Yeah, most people get hung up, I think, on residential property. I think we've an island nation, and of course, so many people want to get into that area of property, but the supply of commercial property is less, but the benefits could be potentially eye-opening.
Yeah, so stay tuned, and we'll be back afterwards with the usual debrief, but let's head on over now to our conversation with Kirsty Darkins. I'm joined today by Kirsty Darkins, seasoned commercial property investor and mentor, and we'll be exploring 6 simple ways to find high-yielding commercial property investments and 3 strategies that work in today's market. Let's get started. Kirsty, welcome.
Thanks, Christian. Excited to be here and share what I can to help your community today.
Yeah, great. Always good to have you, Kirsty. This is not your first Wealth Talk podcast either. And in fact, back in March, so just a couple of months back, you hosted a commercial property accelerator for some of our Wealth Builders members. And the feedback was absolutely outstanding. So what kind of things were you covering that day?
Yeah, it was a great day. So we covered what's happening in the commercial property market right now. We did a site tour of one of our live commercial investment projects, which included us going out to the high street and exploring the high street and why on earth would you invest here? Isn't the high street dead? No, this is why. So we kind of brought that to life for people as an opportunity, and then went through lots of case studies, and did a really big question and answer session with lots of networking as well. So everyone went away with more commercial property knowledge than they came with, and some ideas about what they could do next.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll be doing more of those in the future. So stay tuned for more information. So Kirsty, to set the scene before we really get stuck in today, can you clarify what type of buildings fall under the term commercial property?
Yeah, so it's any building that has a business as an occupier, ultimately. So that's everything from retail to office to industrial units, leisure, educational facilities, and then some specific niche sectors such as kind of cold storage, biomass boilers, EV charging, all of that comes under commercial as well. But it's anything that's occupied by a business ultimately.
Yeah, great. And tell us about your journey briefly as a commercial property investor. What drew you to this niche, and what kind of investments have you focused on over the years?
So I am a commercial property surveyor by background. So I was in corporate for kind of 17 years, didn't invest for myself whilst I was helping other people make lots of profits from commercial property. And then decided, actually, do you know what? I do want to do this for myself because I don't want to have to trade my time for money forever. And I want to build my own investment portfolio. So my commercial knowledge, I then took over into investing for myself in commercial, and I've focused on high street commercial properties. So CMOs, most people know what a HMO is. CMOs are the commercial version, commercial multiple occupancy, and then also industrial properties is what we're focusing on now. So high street and industrial is where I invest myself.
And alongside that, of course, you now work as a mentor and trainer, helping other people with existing property experience hone their own expertise and expand their own commercial portfolios. How do you guide them in acquiring and growing their investments exactly?
Well, it's very much about, so we have our commercial property club, which is where people start to learn and find the right strategy for them, because it's different for everyone depending on where you're starting from and what result you want and how you're funding it. And then I have a mentoring group, and we also source property for clients who just do not have time to find the deals themselves.
And why do you prefer focusing on commercial property rather than residential? Are there unique benefits and challenges?
It's different. So I would say there are definitely some unique benefits, which is that the tenants are responsible for everything in terms of maintenance, compliance. They fit out the units. There's a lot less work for commercial landlords to do. And your gross rent is your net rent aside from the cost of finance, because tenants also pay for everything. And they take longer term leases. So once you've set up a commercial investment, you can go on more holidays. That's what I do. You can also invest your pension directly in commercial property. So it's one of the simplest ways to invest your pension in property, and build your assets and your rental income inside your pension. And you can claim capital allowances through commercial properties, which is a tax benefit to offset your income or your corporation tax, which is another thing that can't be achieved investing in residential. So I always say everyone should always invest in at least one commercial property to take advantage of capital allowances.
So you said different. Do you think there's more skill and more work involved in commercial rather than residential?
No, I think you need a different set of skills, and it's a different kind of work. So I would say there's more work to put in at the front end on finding the deals. It's a very different approach to finding the deals. It's a different set of knowledge. You need to understand businesses, tenants, leases, demand, but there's a lot less management to do. So I'd say it's different, and it's more difficult in some places and simpler in others in comparison to residential. So I think the word different is the best explanation.
Yeah. Wealth builders, we always focus on generating long-term, predictable, recurring income. Sounds like commercial property can certainly deliver that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as I said, you've got long tenancies, 3, 5, 10-year leases set up, income producing, nothing to do to manage that, very hands off. So if that is what you're looking for, is long-term income, commercial property is a good way to achieve it.
I know you source commercial properties as well for people, Kirsty, but I've heard that 50% of commercial property investments never reach the open market. So can you explain a bit more about that?
Yes, I mean something like that. It's not like I haven't done an actual study and come up with that percentage. It's just it's subjective based on mine and the team's experience in the market. But yeah, somewhere around half of all commercial properties don't come to the market because commercial property is all about relationships and network in terms of finding deals. It's not about online portals and sitting behind your computer and talking to just estate agents to find deals. So a lot of commercial deals are traded between contacts and networks. So agents, for example, have their little black book and they like to do as little work as possible whenever possible. So they just want to go out to investors they know are already good for transactions and not have to openly market them. So a lot of the time, agents won't openly market deals. They'll just go to their favoured investors or the investors that happen to phone them up that day and ask the right questions. That's often how it works. And then also you have commercial portfolio landlords who tend to trade with each other. So you build a network of fellow landlords, and when you want to sell, you contact your fellow landlords to ask if anybody wants to buy. And then you've also got professional networks such as asset managers within companies who hold commercial property. They're looking for speed and certainty when they're capital raising, and they don't want to have to go through the process of an open market transaction. So again, they just go out to their network and sell it that way.
Okay, right. So if the best commercial properties are not found on online portals, perhaps we can look at some different areas where you can find commercial property investments. So we said we were going to share 6 simple ways. Is now a good time for us to go through those ones, Kirsty?
Yeah, definitely. So 6 simple ways. So we don't live online. It's not Rightmove Commercial. It's not Zoopla. It's not EGI Property Link. We use those to find agents, not properties, which won't make much sense to you if you've only ever looked at residential. So what I'm saying is if you don't know where to start looking for commercial agents, because that's your number one source of commercial property deals. Of all the deals we source at the moment in this market, 80% of our deals are coming direct from our agent contacts. That's how important commercial agents are to you and to build that relationship. So put in your search criteria in Rightmove Commercial, say Birmingham, 15-mile radius, and see which agents come up who are active. Go onto their websites and start connecting with the agents that way. So commercial agents, they will bring deals to market, but they'll also have off-market deals when you're asking them questions about what's coming to market, who do you know who might want to sell, are there any deals that are falling through? So I'd say 50% of our deals are deals that we pick up when they fall over. And you've got to be in touch with the agents to know that that's happening, and they need to know that you're ready to transact and have a relationship with you to bring those deals to you. So commercial agents are our number one source of deals. Really important to build yourself relationships with 3 or 4 agents in your investment patch and really start working on that relationship to get the deals flowing. And then the second one is auctions. So auctions are really good for commercial property because most commercial property landlords, when they want to sell, want speed and certainty over price. It's just how we work. We're very business minded, and it's not all about the price. It's about the fact that we've got a reason why we're selling this property and we just want speed and certainty because that's what we're used to as commercial landlords in terms of managing our properties, is it being quite straightforward. So auctions are a great hunting ground. And right now in what is a buyer's market, unsold at auction is a great sourcing strategy. So you don't need to buy in the auction. You can make offers prior. They're often not accepted. Just do all your due diligence and be ready for when they go unsold to make your offer, but also be ready to be patient. So we are doing deals now on auction properties that went unsold last July, last September. And they've been sitting there with values gradually decreasing as the quarterly valuations happen. And now they're ready to accept our offers. So it's a waiting game, but it's a great place to hunt for commercial deals. So that's number 2. Number three, which people often don't think of, is as a property investor, and well, just as an investor, we've all got professionals working with us. We've got accountants, solicitors, insurance brokers, planning consultants, architects, all the professionals. And guess who a lot of their other clients are? Commercial property investors, often with a portfolio. And people don't think to ensure that their professional advisors understand what you're looking for and what you're doing and make the connections. So my professional advisors know that we're always in the market for buying more commercial investments. So they connect me with their other clients off market. And we've done a few deals that way. So that's another way of finding deals that aren't anywhere on the market. And another reason why 50% of commercial properties don't come to the market, because it goes through networks. So make sure you're using your existing network and telling them what you're looking for and what you do. Another way is councils. So councils are selling off a lot of property at the moment because they are all struggling for cash, as we know. So Birmingham, in my area, Birmingham are having a fire sale at the moment of a lot of their commercial portfolio. Often it goes through auction, but right now they've got that many deals to do that if you contact them direct and you're ready to go, they will send you the details and they're ready to negotiate. So I would say councils, particularly at this current point in the economy, are another good source of deals. They have their own in-house estate surveyors. So you're asking for the estate teams in-house to be connected to the surveyors. Introduce yourself, tell them who you are, what you're looking for, and they will start sending you what they are selling, and they're ready to take offers. In a similar vein, taking advantage of the market at the moment, in particular, insolvency practitioners. So there are a large number of administrations starting to happen, not just businesses going into administration, but actually portfolio landlords, where commercial portfolio landlords have over leveraged themselves. Their debt has matured. They can't refinance at the rates they were on previously, and they haven't got enough capital to put the amount of equity back into their portfolio that the banks are asking them to put in. So they're having to sell assets or ending up in administration where they haven't been able to sell quickly enough. So we've picked up a number of deals in recent months from insolvency practitioners and administrators. So building relationships with the insolvency practitioners and also the larger surveying firms like CBRE, Savills, Colliers, they all have in-house insolvency teams who deal solely with properties in administration and the selling of those. So they're another good connection for finding those kind of deals. So again, connecting with the right kind of agents. And finally, direct to vendor, which a main sourcing strategy for residential. I would say this comes sixth on my list of all the ways that I've just described, because it's slower for commercial. So there's less commercial property than residential. Only 13% of investable property in the UK is commercial. So if you're going on that ratio, if you send 100 letters out, you've got to go quite far and wide on the direct to vendor strategy. It can work. You can use software, like Nimbus Maps or Property Filter or any of the others that are out there to help you find opportunities. But it is a slower burn. It does work, but you have to commit to it if you're going to go direct to vendor and send letters every month, do the follow-up, be patient, build it up over time. But that can work as a sourcing strategy as well. So those are our 6 strategies: agents, auction, professionals, councils, insolvency practitioners, and direct to vendor.
That is fantastic. And the word that just comes to mind is relationships there, and you've emphasized it. It really is not something perhaps you can expect to just literally click your fingers. It takes time to build those relationships and to build that trust as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's so important. It's what everybody is surprised by when they first start in commercial, is the difference between how you source residential investment opportunities and, I've got to go out and talk to all these people. I can't sit behind my computer. Absolutely. You have to be prepared to do that, but it will yield you some really great results.
On that note, Kirsty, one thing that we talk often about at Wealth Builders is understanding your wealth profile and your personality type. And we use a test called Wealth Dynamics. And there are different people out there. Of course, some of us are very creative. Others love the connection and the networks and the relationships. Do you find there's a type of person that seems to excel in commercial property, or does everyone have their kind of role? So those who are really into the detail obviously are great at doing the analysis of the deals.
Yeah. It is very much about right people, right roles, and partnering where you need to, or bringing in additional resource. So, for example, in my own commercial investing, I'm the people person. I go out and build the relationships with the agents, find the deals, do the negotiating. But I don't project manage my investments. I don't do the nitty gritty of the numbers, and that my business partner does that. And we also have a finance manager who really gets into the weeds of working with our investors and keeping us on the straight and narrow with budgeting and collecting rents and all of that. So I think you need to be aware of who you are, and that if you want to invest in commercial property, you do have to be able to build some relationships, or somebody does. So you're going to need someone in your team, or to collaborate with someone, get someone to do it for you, or a business partner who is good at what you're not good at. If, building relationships, networking is not really your strength or what you like to do.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So we've covered the 6 ways there to find high yielding commercial property investments. Should we have a look now at the 3 strategies that are working in today's market?
Yeah, I mean, there are multiple strategies working, but I would say there's a top 3 at the moment, which is where we are focusing our own investing, but also focusing our activity on behalf of clients. So the first is asset management. So asset management is about adding value to commercial property through leases and tenants. I call it paper exercises. So no physical development works to add value. And that's because it's become really difficult to stack the development deals with the cost of development, lower values. It's time intensive, and there's kind of insufficient reward in that some of the time at the moment. Whereas the asset management deals, you add value through renewing leases, uplifting rents, letting vacant space, removing tenant breaks, and then you can hold them for the medium or the long term and exit when it's the right time for you, either on refinance or flip for capital uplift, as you often would with development. So I'd say asset management is a key strategy that's working really, really well in today's market. There's lots of tenanted investments coming to market where people need to sell. And it also means that you've got a return on your investment from day one, because those investments are cash flowing from day one, which is what I really like about them. The second is CMOs, so commercial multiple occupancy. It mitigates your risk. You've got multiple tenants at any one time in that investment, maximizes cash flow and maximizes value as well. So looking for commercial mixed use properties. That's not commercial ground floor and residential above. That's commercial ground and first floor with a mix of different tenants and a mix of uses. So you might have retail on the ground floor, leisure or offices on the first floor, but you can also have industrial and office CMOs. So any mix of commercial uses, but commercial multiple occupancy is a really great strategy right now. And because we are in a buyer's market, this isn't usually in my top 3 of strategies if we're not in a buyer's market. We are in a buyer's market. We're at the bottom of the commercial market right now. Buying yourself an income, a straight income purchase, is a really smart thing to do right now. Buying at low value. So you buy at low value, immediate income for the long term, absolutely nothing to do to that property apart from sit back and take the income. Now, the value is going to increase over the next couple of years on its own by virtue of the market. As commercial property values start to increase, the capital value of your asset will increase. And so there's nothing to do at this point to enjoy capital uplift as well as immediate income, and nothing to do. So why wouldn't you buy some income producing assets where you're literally buying yourself an income? It's like commercial property investment off the peg. That's my third preferred strategy at the moment in this market.
Yeah, I like the sound of that one. And do you have any examples either of one that you've purchased yourself or one of your students have purchased recently?
Of the buying and income?
Mm.
Yeah, so we've done a few actually. So let me think. So we've done a couple that have been single lets for pension investors, where their aspirations are long-term, secure income. So really important about location. Really important to have a strong business in there on a long lease. Somewhere between 8 and 10% returns is what the pension investors are looking for when they're looking for commercial. So we did one in Newark, which has got 5 years on a lease to a long-term independent cafe operator. They've been there for a very, very long time. It's in a great location. It'll relet all day long if anything ever happens to that tenant. That was an 8.5% return. It came on the market for 230,000. We bought it for 160.
Very nice.
And that's really where you're at in terms of, we say, if you think you're being cheeky, move to rude at the moment in the commercial market, okay, in terms of making offers, because it's all there for you to take. It's a buyer's market. The debt finance market is thin. If you've got capital, you're in a strong position. So make offers around 40% below asking at the moment to start, and you'll probably achieve 30% below asking a lot of the time. We've just negotiated terms on a property in Leamington, which is a nice affluent location, very strong high street. Again, it's a single unit, it's vacant, it will let all day long. Landlord needs to sell at a really unhelpful point in that asset cycle, which is unfortunate for them, but fortunate for our clients. It's vacant, it will let for somewhere between 35 to 38 grand a year, probably to a small independent business. We're buying that one at 305,000. So if you let that at 38,000 a year, you've got a nice 11.5%, might even be 12 off the top of my head, return. And your capital value, you're going to add 6 figures plus to your capital value just by tenanting that property, and then be able to refinance out of it to hold or flip it if you want to take the capital uplift. So there's a couple that we've done recently on the buying and income basis.
Yeah, good examples. And you mentioned there's obviously less commercial property available than there is residential, and it's more hands off once you've set it up. So therefore, does it matter so much where the property is located? Does it mean that you can expand your search area, or perhaps that you have to expand your search area outside of perhaps your 1 hour perimeter of where you live?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the answer is absolutely. It means you can be really remote if you want to. And I'll give you a great example. So one of our clients is based in the southeast, has just agreed a deal in Prestwick in Scotland, because there's absolutely nothing for them to do. Again, that's a buy and income deal that is too good to not buy. They're kind of, okay, so they're all tenanted. There's nothing to do for years on those leases. We connect them to a local agent so that if anything does ever come up, they have a local agent on standby who knows the location, knows the tenants, can help them with anything they need help with. But yeah, you don't have to go that remote. That's an extreme example. But yeah, I go 2 hour radius most of the time for our investments, but you can go much further because there's nothing to do with asset management deals or CMOs or buying an income a lot of the time. And the work that there is to do is done by professionals on your behalf. So as long as you've got the agent contacts in that location, you can be much broader in your investment patch.
Yeah. Well, Kirsty, you've shared some brilliant information with us today. But as with any strategy, the skill is in the detail. So not being educated, doing poor due diligence, not understanding the valuations, you could come a cropper. So it always begins with education. If someone wants to find out a bit more about how you help them to understand commercial property, where's the best place for them to head?
So they can head to our website, kdcommercial.co.uk, and we will also provide you with a link for people to book a call if they're interested and just want to find out more about how it might work for them. And that's free. It's just a 30-minute free call for us to find out about you and see if we can help you.
Yeah, no, it's been great speaking with you today, Kirsty. Thanks so much for being a great guest on Wealth Talk.
Well, thank you for having me.
Okay, enjoyable conversation with Kirsty, as always. And we certainly did get great feedback from our members who attended Kirsty's workshop earlier this year, didn't we, Kevin?
I mean, and what a great workshop it was too, because it's, you know what, it's like, we say that the idea behind Wealth Builders is to help people achieve their ambition to become financially independent, financial secure as the first milestone, but be set for life in the end. And more often than not, people just don't have a process. And this is an enjoyable process. It brings it to life, taking people like being kids again, putting on the hard hat, wearing the high vis jacket, having a good wander around and see education come to life is much better than just reading in a book.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll go through some of the points that Kirsty made in a second. But before we do that, let's check out Trustpilot. And we've had some more reviews coming in, which we always love to read out. Thank you so much for those of you that do take time. We've got one from Claire here who says, there is no doubt that Kevin really knows his stuff and is on a mission to bring that knowledge to as many people as possible, empowering them to reach financial freedom. Though the Wealth Builders program wasn't the right fit for me, I was lucky enough to have some one-to-one time with Kevin and was really blown away by his knowledge.
Oh, blushing. Look, we talk to people, and of course, not everybody that we talk to is a right fit for us, and not everybody we're a right fit for them. And that's just life. So, but that's where our integrity comes in. So when we talk to people, we want to assess whether or not there is a good fit, whether we can help them. And sometimes the timing isn't right. Sometimes people can be caught up in a whirlwind of a lifestyle change or a business change or something that's interrupting their life. They need to take care of that. And I'm certain that we resonate well enough with Claire that, what we do will have relevance to her when she's ready. And that's our style, isn't it? When you're ready, we're ready. They often say, when you're ready, the teacher appears. And we certainly like to be ready, but only when the time is right for you. So just keep tuning in, and at some point, you're going to drop in and have a conversation with us. And that's really the starting point. So have a conversation, see if something gives you an aha moment or a blinding flash of the obvious and go, maybe it's time for me to reach out. And we often hear people say that, Chris, not quite like we're being stalked, but people say they follow us for a while, and even as long as 2 or 3 years before they then say, well, I think I've heard enough now. And my life, the stars have aligned for this to be the right time. And it's still better to do that than it is to try and hope that investing in the traditional way of the stock market and pensions, will be 30, 40 years when you can really build your wealth in 30, 40 months. And so it doesn't matter if you delay yourself a little. And that's why, we're very relaxed about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good stuff. And of course, good to hear from Kirsty.
Absolutely. And Wealth Builders, we're all about the education, all about the support, but of course, all about the connections as well. And we have a black book full of connections, many of those ones that you've built up over the years, Kevin. And Kirsty's just one, right, who teaches a strategy, a very specific strategy within the property pillar. And we teach, all different asset classes, of which there are different strategies within each. But property's a popular one. Commercial property, I guess sometimes some myths that it's more complicated, more difficult. Kirsty said it's not really any more difficult, but you just need to learn different things. And it all begins with education.
It does. And also, more often than not, if I'm just raising the subject of different ways that you can invest in property, you'll hear people say things like, oh, I don't want to have an empty shop, with a to let sign over it or something like that. And this is important to understand that there are ways that you can acquire any kind of commercial property, but commercial property is where the lease is already established. You're not buying something that's empty, that's vacant. You're getting a long-term lease from a viable customer or local authority or housing association or even the government, where you can get very, very secure long-term rental income, which gives a yield. And it's interesting that we haven't talked about this before, Chris, actually, but when you think out loud, every asset has a different method of generating its income. and it's called something different, isn't it? So when you're talking about stock market, it's sort of, returns. There's no cash flow coming from the stock market. If it's IP, it's royalty and so on. But yield is often spoken about with commercial property. It's a very common term, different from like rental that you normally associate with residential, because you can get that yield. And as Kirsty said so eloquently, and I want to highlight the point, your gross rent equals your net rent. Now, for most people in Resi, that's just not true. So your gross rent is pick a number, 1,000 a month. That's not what you get in the bank. It's that the difference between your salary and your net income.
Mm.
But when it comes to commercial property, your gross is your net, because there is no deduction for you to have to pay out. You've got, the leases are long term potentially. There's no requirement for you to maintain. There's no requirement for you to insure. There's no requirement for you to get involved in the management of the day-to-day operation of the property. So if the toilet breaks down, it's not your problem. If the air conditioning breaks down, it's not your problem. Your job is to look at it from a perspective of what's the yield, how good is the tenant, and if other ways, of course, is increasing the value of the property in all sorts of different ways, whether it's the legal way, whether it's adding value to the property itself. So many ways that she described how commercial property has got a different way of providing its return compared to what you would normally associate with residential property. And it's interesting, she said everybody should have at least one commercial property in their portfolio. It's an interesting one, right? Given the supply is a lot less. But certainly within pensions, Chris, and I think might be worth highlighting, we did a major pensions podcast recently as last time.
Last week, episode 241.
All right, okay. So, we did a deep dive with myself and Paul into SSAS. And when you've got a pension where it's normally the value is up and down like a roller coaster in the stock market, if you can get a long-term yield, that's perfect for your pension. Because it means if you're banking that yield, that's income that you could spend if you were retiring. Whereas you can't really do that in a conventional pension. If you think about it, you've got a pot, you've accumulated a pot when you retire, and then you got to make that pot last. So you start spending and seeing it come down and down and down. You're all of a sudden starting to worry about it. I was talking to one of our potential members actually just recently, and he said, you save up your money to be able to go to the nice restaurants, and then you give all the reasons why you don't want to go to the nice restaurant because you're going to run out of money if you do. So the answer is to build recurring income, not to build accumulation. And commercial property, perfect asset for that.
Yeah. Obviously, we talk about SAS, but it is possible to invest commercial property in a SIP as well, Kevin.
Yeah, and definitely in a SIP or a SAS. Not all roads lead to SAS. I think there are just some additional benefits with SAS that I like, which is that diversification. We talk about multiple streams of recurring income. With SAS, you've just got much more power to be able to do and involve yourself in different asset classes. Whereas SIP you're normally restricted to the investment choice of the SIP provider. Whereas with the SAS, you're restricted to the choice of your own knowledge and your own ability. And that's what we do in WealthBuilders, is help people build that capability through, as you said before, Chris, education, support, connections, help with due diligence, all of those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So, I think more often than not, a Wealth Builder member will gravitate towards SAS, but nothing wrong with SIPs. SIPs can do a perfectly good job as well.
Yeah, now we've got the webinar coming up on the 29th of May, Kevin. We'll be going through our 9-step roadmap. And one of those steps, step 6, is leverage. And I could see there were different areas of leverage when Kirsty was talking. One being timing. So, leverage can come from the value, but also the timing. And right now, when we're recording May 2024, it's a buyer's market. And Kirsty was saying that one of the strategies working really well now is simply to buy almost at wholesale price and hold on to it, collect that recurring income every month, and let the market do its thing over the next few years.
Yes, I certainly see that, and Kirsty would be well placed to to confirm whether it's a buyer's market or not. And, you would rely on her judgment, but you have to establish that for yourself, because in any market, you can't predict whether it's going to go up or down next. But if she's right, that would make good sense. In the same way, it's often been the case when the stock market falls and people sell out. When the stock market falls, that might be the ideal time to buy in, because you're buying at an assumed discount, right? So I think the principle applies, but a good wealth builder is financially fleet of foot, Chris. It means you've got to be grounded. And while we deal in principles, not timing, it's not our role to get involved in the timing. Other experts will do that. That's why we don't do predictions. But what we will do is say, well, the principle is if you can buy well, and that's the ideal scenario, you buy well, you can add value, or you just buying well to get a long-term yield. If you get a capital appreciation at the same time, and Kirsty's right, then that's cherry on the cake, really. I would suggest people buy for long-term yield, and then the capital value is a bonus, not something that you're buying and relying on that getting that timing right.
Yeah, as you say, all about the principles of building wealth, and that's what we teach. And if you'd like to join Kevin and myself, don't forget to register for the webinar that's coming up on Wednesday, 29th of May. Head to wealthbuilders.co.uk and we can help you put your wealth plan together, and we'd love to help you achieve your goals.
And everybody's different, and as Kirsty also said, notwithstanding the quick point that I want to make, which is the taxation treatment of residential property is now fundamentally shifted, and the balance has changed. Commercial property still got many, many tax benefits over and above residential property. She mentioned capital allowances. Although I said earlier on gross is net, well, it isn't really. You still got to pay corporation tax, but there's no other taxes. You don't have other taxes that you're worried about with government interventions and excess stamp duty and not being able to claim any expenses like mortgages off your bill. So there's definitely some key distinctions as far as that's concerned. But the other key distinction she made is, which is, and I think you brought it out when you talked about wealth dynamics, Chris, is the essence. If you boil down what she said, the key to building a good commercial property portfolio is, first of all, to build great relationships. And you've got to build them first. You can't build them second. So you're investing and making deposits in a relationship, building that credibility, building that trust, building that reputation. And she's clearly done that. And she mentioned a large proportion of investment opportunities flow directly from connections made from other people. So knowing yourself is really important here. And relationship is a highest form of currency. I heard someone say that very specifically, and I liked it. A nice term, isn't it? We know money is a form of currency, but relationships are too. And if you can build those relationships and you can bank on those relationships, then they will come back to you. The challenge is with all of these things, with the supply being less, is you can be waiting a long time. So and Kirsty mentioned that she was looking at deals now that the seeds had been sown 2 or 3 years ago, reinforcing the point that wealth building is a journey. It's a destination for sure, but it's a journey, and that journey is not predictable. The outcome is predictable if you do enough of it and you turn the wheel enough times. And from our perspective, we want you to turn the wheel in multiple ways. Not get too confused at the beginning. Choose the first wheel, then the second wheel, then the third wheel, all which we cover in the program, Chris, as well. And tell people when it's the right time to start looking to build on something new, but become a master of your niche first. Mastery being a key thing. You can't be wealthy without being a master of something, except by accident and happenstance. And hope is not a plan. So start somewhere, and we'll show you where if you come along and join us on the webinar. We'll show you a plan, so to stop that overwhelm that so many people get caught up in reading this book, reading that book, watching this webinar, watching that webinar, but not actually taking action. And our plan is to get you to take action within that first 90-day period.
It sure is. Okay, powerful message to end us with today there, Kevin. All right, enjoyed that. And I hope you did too. And if you think somebody else that you know would benefit from today's episode, please do hit the share button, send it to them, and we would appreciate your help. as we prepare to catch up again, same time, same place next week.
Yes, indeed. Until then, my friend, see ya.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget that we are constantly updating our resources inside the Wealth Builders membership site to help you create, build and protect your wealth. Head over to wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership right now for free access. That's wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership.